Welcome back to the GODOT top-down shooter tutorial in 3D. In this video, we're going to be importing our main character and getting the animations set up. So let's go ahead and do that. In Blender, I've got my character model here and I've got all my animations sorted. I've got my idle run animation. You may want to add some other animations, make them a bit more interesting to look at. So you could make the shoulders move when he's walking with the gun. Currently, the upper body is pretty static. But when you've got it all sorted, you want to go to File, Export, and then export a GLTF 2.0. I'm changing mine to GLTF Embedded. I've heard other people have had success with GLTF binary. My computer doesn't seem to want to import it naturally. It just leaves it. And I'm saving it as main character into my top-down shooter tutorial GODOT project folder. So I'm just saving it straight into there and export that GLTF. Now when I switch back over to GODOT, what we see is it's got the main character and it's got the materials. So the chain gun material, the shell case material, all those different materials that I used. And I can go into them and double click them and change what they're like. So for this one, which is the player material, I want to go in and change the albedo and turn off filter. And you may also want to go and turn the roughness up to 1 and the specular down to 0. It seems to come in really, really shiny, and I'm not entirely sure why. It may be to do with the environment here, but we'll sort that out later. But for now, I've turned the specularity all the way down to 0 and the roughness all the way up to 1. Let's go ahead and edit our player. So if we open up our player scene, which should be scenes and then player, we're going to go ahead and add the mesh for this in. And it's pretty straightforward. It's going to come in really large actually, so we're going to want to change that. And I'm not entirely sure why. Oh, because it is pretty large in here. Probably could scale it down. It doesn't really matter for this. So let's go ahead and bring this in. Main character, I'm going to bring it in and plug it into player. You'll notice it automatically gets oriented with the Z forward. We actually want to flick it all the way around so it's facing the same way as our player controller, and then we can scale it down. So I'm going to scale it. Is there a way to just scale it down? I think that this will, no, that'll just flatten it. So let's go to the transform, and for the scale, I'm going to type 0.2, 0.2, 0.2. That is about the right size. If I can go and delete this capsule mesh now. That one and also that one. Okay, so that's actually pretty good. That's about the right size. I could make it a little bit bigger if I wanted to. So let's go ahead, main character, and scale it 0.3 maybe, 0.3. No, that's too much. Could be 0.25. There, that's pretty good. Okay, so now I've got that character in there. If I hit play, notice I've hidden those capsule meshes, the other meshes in there, and I've got my top-down dude in here. He can move around, and the 2D position, I'll have to change that, and I'll probably want to change where the bullets eject from, so I might need 2 different position 2Ds. But let's go ahead and do that. So this position 3D, sorry, I'm going to go ahead and we'll change that. Hold control as I shift as I move it. Let's move it to the end of the chain gun there, across a little bit. It's kind of snapping, but I don't want it to snap that much. So I'll turn off snapping and we'll position it pretty much right in the center of the chain gun. Then I'm going to duplicate that. I'm going to move it to here. And I'll call this ejector, case ejector. And this here, end of chain gun. So let's go into the script now, because I'll need to actually say where I want that to be, and I probably should have named these properly at the start. So this is going to be end of chain gun. That's the new case. So I actually want that to be case ejector, and this is the end of chain gun. That should be all I need, because that's the only points that I'm referencing. Let's go ahead and test that now. So that looks better, and then the shells come out of that, which looks pretty cool. All right. So from here, we're going to go and set up the animation. Now with this, the main character, if we click on this, and I just click open anyway, you'll see it has an animation player. We don't want to change this. We can't, if we change it, we can't save it. So we want to know that this already has an animation player associated with it. So let's go back to the player, and we're going to look at the movement script, and we'll go to the movement code, which is this one here. And where is the bit that moves and slide? Physics process, here we go. So this bit here, we're going to say if move vector is greater than 0, actually that won't be right. If move vector is not equal to vector 3.0, then we'll get the $main character animation player dot play, and we'll play run. Else $main character dot / animation player dot play idle. And this is why I really love Godot, because that is so simple and so easy to read. It gave me a little error there. If I move around, you can see that the legs now move. They might not be moving at the right speed. And also strafing, that's not really the right animation, but we don't want to have his legs rotate entirely apart from his body. So if I stand still for long enough, his head should look around. There we go. He looks around, checks around him, and we've got our animations in the game working really well. So let's go ahead and ignore that error. That will sometimes come up. I don't know why, but it just goes away. And we'll save this. And in the next video, we'll look at creating the enemies.